There's a great silent opera, a whole lot of murmur, constantly falling on deaf ear in Dominica. Utility companies, they're heartless policies, they causing distress and despair. It's pure murder. Dumb like the people have a complaint. Electricity prices overpaid. For all the other money that we paying, every day it's the same. Lights gone again, people appliances gone come again, and it's plain to see that your policy is once you making your money to hell with everybody. But I hear a sound of a distant drum, not far away, not so far away. And the beat is for people who die and suffer, who take and cannot take no more. The poor service you providing causing big problems, and nobody is seeking for justice for them. They pay their dues, they have their rights. They tell me to tell you, let there be light, 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 again. Yeah, man. Listen up. It's a matter of principle, the rights of my people. If your system is causing trouble, you're responsible. Your price is excessive for the service we receive. All this frequent power outage causing damage. When people cannot pay, you disconnect them. But when you're wrong, you ignore their problem. Because they have no recourse, you take advantage. Tariff and excise tax, and you will cost. Value added tax to pass down to us. People tired ball, take it once and for all. Cause you're driving Dominicans back against the wall. But I hear a sound of a distant drum, not far away, not.
All right, Dominicans, wherever you are this time, it's a pleasure to be in your company once more. That is a Civic Vibes team, that is. First off the bat, let me apologize to you guys profusely out there for starting this program 25 minutes late tonight. That was a situation totally beyond my control. But yes, we are here and we are ready to go. Please, as we are moving along here, share that information, share that live, make someone know that yes, the program Civic Vibes is now on. We're going to have this evening a very candid conversation, a very informative conversation as well. We're going to learn something tonight. We have a special invited guest in the name of Brother Don Corriett in the house. We will be hearing from him in just a bit. So folks, please just sit back, relax, make yourself feel very, very comfortable at this time. You are in tune for a very, very good program indeed. Tonight being the 17th night of September, that is Saturday, that is 2023. It's a pleasure, folks, to be with you guys once more. All right, without further ado, let me move across to Brother Alvin Thomas, co-hosting the program tonight. Alvin, good evening to you, sir. How are you?
Hi, good evening, Lofty. I'm doing great, man. Can you hear me okay? Am I coming loud?
Very well, yes, very well, yes.
Okay, excellent, because I saw my internet was fluctuating a bit. But yeah, good evening. It's a pleasure to be back again on yet another evening of a conversation which I think is worth having, and which I'm sure Dominicans at home and abroad are looking forward to. It's a pleasure to have with us this evening our brother Don Corriett. Don and I go way, way back, Don, way back. Yeah, I wouldn't say we were partners in crime, but we you know, we go way back. So it's really great to see Don and looking forward to the conversation. Yes, Don.
Yeah, I said those crimes have been solved.
Well, Don is just basically putting a disclaimer out there, Alvin.
I hear that. I hear that. Yeah.
Because there are crimes. There's no limit on them, and no statute of limitation.
No statute of limitation. Right. But I noticed Lofty, a number of our folks have already logged in and saying hi and good evening to us. So good evening to all of them who are logged in. It's great to have all of you in. If I'm not mistaken, Lofty, I think tomorrow is the anniversary of Maria, correct? It was the 18th of September.
17th.
So it's today.
17th or 18th. Oh yeah, 18th.
18th tomorrow.
So we're on the eve of
Yes.
that 6th anniversary. And I think it's ironical that we are here discussing a number of issues that are not natural hurricane, but man-made hurricane. So as I said, looking forward, and I'm sure the folks on the live will be sharing their thoughts on the conversation this evening. So I'm happy to be here again this Sunday.
Yes, indeed. Alvin, thank you very much, my brother, for your opening salvo here, as it were. It's always a pleasure, Alvin, to have you on board with us every time you doing your due from where you are, basically still contributing to your country in one way, shape, or form. Thank you for that indeed. Folks, this evening, the topic under the microscope tonight, the topic that we're going to expound on, Brother Corrett in particular, it is our energy, our economy. Are we in a crisis in Dominica? That is the question, the ultimate question we want answered this evening. And so, yes, your input as well. They are welcome for the program sometimes later in the program. All right, let me now move across to Brother Don Corrett. As I said before, Brother Don, you know, is a very patriotic brother in Dominica, a man that wore many hats, still wearing some hats indeed. And so we will be hearing from him in just a while in terms of just a, he's showing that he have one. He has one. Yes, Don, without further ado, my brother, greetings to you and welcome to the Civic Vibe space at this time.
Yeah, greetings, Lofty. Greetings to my partner in crime, as he says, Alvin Thomas, but more my mentor, my colleague at one time in JC's movement, and actually a supervisor at one time when I was at the Airport Services Division. He used to be the assistant secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, and therefore he overlooked some of the airport operations. And so it's a privilege to be sitting among such esteemed guy, you know. I remember, Alvin, in our JC's creed, we had things like that faith in God gives meaning and purpose to human life. I wonder if that applies today.
I know. Yeah.
You know, and the one that strikes me is that government should be of laws rather than men.
Absolutely. Yep.
Powerful. Specializing human what? Personalities. So you know, that is the kind
That's right. And that service to humanity is the best work of life.
Best work of life. So that's the background that Alvin and myself come from, and I hope I can serve and be of some merit to this discussion. A little background, I was born in Dominica, by the way, so I'm a true Dominican, born and bred in Dominica. Some people ask me, you sure you're Dominican, given my complexion, given my color of my eyes and all that kind. You know how it goes. But I've worked in Dominica for all of my life. As I said, I spent 27 years in the Airport Services Division. I gave 38 years service to the public service. From airport, I left transit to the Office of Disaster Management. Then I went back to government after the merger of the Sea and Airports Authority as a program officer with ODM. And then I went to the Ministry of Information Technology and Housing on a special assignment to help in the logistics post Maria, Hurricane Maria. So basically, that is my background. I'm humbled to be part of this discussion. Let me put a disclaimer, I'm not an expert on energy. know that I'm an expert on on that subject matter, and I'm not an economist, but I think I have enough basic knowledge to contribute to this program tonight.
All right. Yes, indeed, Don. Thank you very, very much indeed. Some persons are saying they're getting you a little low, Don. I'll try my best to boost
A little
up.
low?
Yes,
Is
some
it
persons.
better now? Better I take off the headset? Let me see. Yeah.
We are hearing you, but just maybe that earpiece was just a little, that mouthpiece rather was just a little too far from your mouth.
Yeah, the mic maybe was.
You're right. Yeah, you're coming in a bit better.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Yeah, cool. All right. So Alvin, yes, thank you, Brother Don, for your introduction, as it were. Some persons who may not have known you before basically would by now have gotten a better snapshot of the type of brother that they're dealing with in terms of your contribution to country so far. So yes, we are indeed in tune for a very, very interesting conversation. As Brother Don said, he's no expert in things, but at the end of the day, he has a lot of experience down his belt so that he can contribute in a meaningful way to the conversations in Dominica. And of late, we have been having this load shedding, capacity management, as they call it, situation facing us. So Don will speak on that and some other related issues. All right, Alvin, let us hail up our fans now before we start the conversation in earnest.
Yes, Lofty, we have Jan Joseph is already locked in with us, saying good evening all, and we also have Euphali Vidal, Sunday evening greetings to all. Lofty way to go. We have Althea Rene locked in, Lauren Lestrade, Maury Jules is saying, "Ja blessing my people." We have Fifth Sunshine, who is also locked in. Glenda Lavidou. Remember you said, Lofty, we must make sure we mention Lavidou.
Yes, that's a
code. Burton.
That's a code.
Let there be light. Dom, let's stop making people suffer. We have Eliza Gomes, who is also locked in. Veronica Pascal. Everlasting Peter is shouting out to Lofty Alvin and Brother Corrier. And of course, we have our faithful David Joseph, who is always locked in, waiting and ready. Simeon George. We have Juanita Prince in New York, which is locked in. Dave Bertrand is saying, good night, Lofty, Dawn, and the listening public. Who else we got there? We got Mr. Tad James. Bless up. That brother Tad James is there, regular, faithful patriot who doesn't put, as the old people say, glow a bush, putting water in his mouth. We have Ellie Newton, Ivinia Joseph. Who else are you seeing, Lofty?
I'm seeing Ramona St. Rose. We're also seeing Yusika Isles, Veronica Pascal. You mentioned Juanita Prince already. Franklin Timothy, Brother Dave Bertrand, Carol Ford is here. Thaddeus James, I want to big you up again, my brother. I saw your mom as well there. Justina James, good evening to you folks. Marshall Lawrence is there. Marlene Shillingford. Faith Sunshine, yes. Chandra Senville is also there. Cecilia Bedminster as well. Eli Newton, Dorian Dorival, Claraline Warrington, Dana Filbert Peterson, Ashby, Scotland. Good evening to you, Ashby. Gertrude Abraham Deja is listening as well. Claudette Durand is also there. Earl Francis, Angela Paul, Marvella Defoe, Bernard Ulysses, Viva Mamu is also there as well. Owen Prosper, Angela Paul, Brother David Joseph, you're there as well. Irresistible Cordelia is there. Who else we got there? Judith Cochran, Petra Carbon George as well.
Yeah.
Olivia Esprit, Herminia Watson Duvini, Garnier Deluge. Who else? Bernard Ulysses, I mentioned that name. Alan Pierre is also there.
Yeah.
Carlin Sanders, Claudia Carlton, Edith John.
Linton, Scotland.
Jojo, yes, Linton Scotland is saying hi and hello, good evening to you, Linton. Bernard Aline, my brother would in the UK at this time, still contributing to Dominica, although he's many, many miles away. Manuel in Pierre, Carol Olivaci Bruni, Claudette Durand, and the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
Folks, if you did not hear your name, Alvin and I did not deliberately call your name, but in the interest of time, it's already 25 to the hour of 7 o'clock. And so, yes, we have to get the conversation going here.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, Lofty. And those we missed, we'll call in the second round. But yeah, they're locked in, and we really want to say thank you and thumbs up to all of those persons who come in every Sunday with us and join in the conversation. My hope is that the message be spread, that we spread the live, we share the information, and we don't keep all of that knowledge to ourselves. And those of you who may missed it, you can always go back and listen to it because it's right there, and you get back on our Facebook page. But clearly share the live and let people know what's going on. I think we're at a particular juncture of our history, Lofty, and Don will agree with me that we can't go.
Just before you go to that juncture, just keep that point. We'll have that as an opening, as an opening foundation.
Yeah.
But it will be remiss of us if we don't pay homage, pay some tribute, some sort of condolence messages out there now to the family of a stalwart, a patriotic brother, a Reverend Watty.
Oh,
we're told that he passed today. And so, how can we start a program like that and not send condolences to his family?
Absolutely, Lofty. Absolutely. Yes. Our condolences go out to the family and close ones and loved ones of Reverend Watty. As we know, Reverend Watty was a pillar. I would put Reverend Watty as how should I say, a social, somebody who represented humanity. That type of person. We know he was, he had that role in the church, in the Methodist Church. But I think this was a gentleman who speaks where he saw injustice. He speaks on issues that affect humanity. And we know of his work throughout the world. Not just Dominica, he worked in Africa, around the globe. And certainly, this is one gentleman who have contributed not just to our own humanity as a Dominican, to Dominicans, but to the rest of the world. So we really want to extend our condolences to his family and his loved ones on the passing of Reverend Watt. I understand he was somewhere around 90 or thereabout. So he was batting. He was in the crease batting.
Yes, I know Don would want to say something as well.
Huh?
I said, Don, I know you'd want to say something as well in respect
yes,
of.
I want to reiterate what Alvin says, but just to add another name. But Reverend Watt did back a good healing. It's a pity we don't have reviews, else we'd review the out given to him, but so he could stay a little longer. But we all have that calling. So, but may his soul rest in peace. We also had the passing of a very good friend, and most of us online will know Curtis Masface Simeon.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes.
That was a shocker. He died yesterday of some heart ailment, I think it is. On Friday evening, I think. Yeah, Friday.
Yes, Friday evening, I got that news, yes.
Friday. So condolences also to his friends and family, especially Patrick. Patrick and Thomas Ali and the rest of his family. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Masface was my real brother. He yes, very, very jovial. Always cracking a joke whenever he met you. Masface, you couldn't be around Masface and be in a mood or be vexed of anything. Masface would find a way to bring that laughter out. Yeah. So may his soul rest in peace, brother Masface. Gone, but will never be forgotten. We also hearing about I should say a baby 2 years plus or somewhere around there that drowned earlier, allegedly, that is in the Corley Ho area. So again, our condolences go to friends, parents of that child as well. Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Very.
That's a calling that people have, but some of it may be avoidable according to some experts, but that's for another topic, another day.
True. All right, gentlemen, let's dig right into it now. It is 20 minutes to 7 o'clock. Folks, will open up the lines at 7 o'clock so that you out there can call in and contribute, or send in your messages as well. Remember the numbers to call into the program. They are 245-2396 or 615-9470. I'll be plugging those numbers in the live feed later so that you can Look them up. And if you want to call in to have your voice be part of the conversation, that voice would be welcome as well. All right, Brother Don, as we said before, you're a man that wore many hats in Dominica. You're still wearing some. You just took out one a while ago, as it were. But Don, we have a situation in Dominica now that is on everybody's lips, as it were, whereby our electricity company, Domlec, they are in some hot water now, as it were, in terms of providing to us, the customers, that reliable and efficient service that we knew Domlec as a company had in terms of service to its customers. Don, how important is it? First question to you, sir. How important is it?
Lofty,
Yes.
if you don't mind, Lofty, if you stick up in there, as I said in the opening comments, I know tomorrow we'll celebrate 6 years since Hurricane Maria. And Don was involved in post-Maria recovery. He played a role in that. If you could just speak briefly as we come on to that 6th year, where have we been since Maria? 6 years. And I mean, we're still in the hurricane season, and we cross our fingers and pray and hope that we can get off the season without anything. But can you just speak just briefly in terms of where we're 6 years later? Because as I understand it, there are still folks back home who still haven't gotten their roofs repaired since Hurricane Maria. There are still folks living in sheds in Dominica since Maria. And that is not due to the fact that the government got quite a bit of money, the most money that they've ever gotten after disaster, as well as material. So if Don could just maybe, before we get into the main discussion, just speak briefly to that and tell us in terms of, because he played a role post-Maria in Dominica.
So I'm glad you said post-Maria, because I was more intimate with the events of Tropical Storm Erica, where I was at the helm of the ODM. But Maria, my role was in the logistics part of it, more or less to do with housing and building materials and relief supplies from the port point of view. But where we are from 5-6 years ago to now, as you quite rightly said, we still have a lot of people who are in dire straits, who need assistance, be it housing, be it livelihoods, be it support, social cycle support. So we still have a gap that has not been filled in terms of the country's overall projection. We claimed, I mean, the Prime Minister made a heroic speech at the United Nations following Maria, that we were going to be the first climate resilient country in the world. We need to measure where we are as to the pronouncement. And 6 years later, I don't know what kind of benchmarks are they using to determine what are the impacts or what are the progress, what have we achieved. I can't see that documented anywhere. In fact, we had a outfit or institution that had to oversee that milestone, that strategic kind of goal setting and plan. That's CREED. I am not hearing much about CREED anymore. CREED was to be the police or the guiding agent to see that we arrive at that milestone, but I'm not hearing anything. We're still not very resilient. We're still not, in fact, we are far from being resilient because look at what is happening to Dominic. If we have to measure our resilience against what is happening with Dominic, you can see that we have missed the target. And therefore, we have to examine ourselves. We like to use the word reset. We may have to reset and go back from the pronouncements of 2018, 2017, 2018, the benchmarks we have set ourselves, the targets we have set ourselves, and to measure them and to find out where are the gaps, where did we fail or not achieve, and how do we position ourselves to revisit those strategic areas that we have identified as making us the most resilient island in the world. So we have to re-examine ourselves. And as you quite rightly said, Alvin, there are many people who still haven't got a roof over their heads or have compromised roofs over their head. And God forbid, I hope we don't get another, not another Maria, even less than Maria, that would put those people in even more difficulty. We still haven't redirect our resources in an efficient and prudent way to allow most of our people to enjoy employment, to enjoy ways of making a livelihood. So we still have people literally depending on social services. I don't want to say politicians, I don't want to say the red clinic, that's for other people to see. But 5 years later, 6 years later, we should have been in a different mindset. We should have been in a different position, given the opportunities we had to make amends and to market ourselves as truly the nature island, truly the resilient country that we were championing to be. So there are gaps we need to fill and to examine. On the other aspects of response and equitable distribution of supplies, and I wasn't involved in that. I can speak to it, but I don't want to speak to it.
No, I understand. No, I mean, you're right. I mean, I recall the document or what they refer to as Creed was a very detailed document. We spoke about making ourselves the first resilient, whatever term that was used. And I mean, when we look around from climate resilience country, when we look around, this was merely slogans more than anything else. And we are approaching 6 years since Maria. And I mean, in the next 3-4 years will be a decade, 10 years. And it's a shame that folks are still, suffering from that effect of the hurricane. A basic thing, like maybe a roof over their head and repairs to their structures and stuff like that. So I'm glad you were able to at least shed some light on that. And it's my hope, we pray, as I said, that we can finish off the hurricane season without anything, because we still have another, 2 months to go again, I believe. 3 months.
But we can even go back further to Erica. I still know people who have not recovered from Erica. We still have infrastructure that we need to examine and to find out whether we can reopen, for example, the Daily Spiti Savan Road.
Right.
Whether we can reopen that artery so that we can open up the country a little bit more. We can build our resilience. So if something happens in the Daly's area, we have a alternative route to come to Roseau, or response from Roseau can get to Daly. So all those little factors, 7-8 years after, we need to re-examine, we need to reset, we need to go back and look at the gaps and look at what we could have done, we didn't do. So it gives us an opportunity really to re-examine.
Absolutely.
Or procedures, or priorities,
Right. So yes, Lofty. So that takes us now to where we are with the crisis in terms of the energy that you were referring to, and trying to get done to speak to that. I think the topic this evening from our ad that was sent out speaks of our energy, our economy, and ask the question: are we in a crisis? I would also add our health sector there as well. I think these are the three major pillars. When we speak of economy, we also speak of the agriculture sector, the business sector. But when you speak of energy, our economy, our health sector, are we in a crisis?
Well, as a question where after the discussion we might conclude, or we may want to conclude whether we are in a crisis or in an emergency. But energy, by definition, simplest definition, energy is work, the ability to work, energy. So you're taking food into your body for energy to work. The sun emits rays as form of energy to provide and supply energy for production. So energy in a nutshell is the ability to work, and there are sources of energy that can be classified as renewable energy or non-renewable energy. So where does Dominica, for example, stand in terms of the sources of energy available to us for growth, for economic growth, for livelihoods? And do we have a comparative advantage in terms of what is available to us? So if we examine the non-renewable energies, we're talking about petroleum, we're talking about things like nuclear, hydrocarbons, gases, those kinds of avenues, which we do not have access to. And therefore, what we have access to is the natural sources of energy. Sun, which is 13 hours of sunlight per day. So that's a resource that we haven't harnessed. We have water for hydro. That we have done a limited amount of exploration in terms of the Trafalgar Loader hydro plant. Solar, we haven't done much of in terms of public sector policy. We see the private sector doing some retrofitting of their business places. Would have loved to see the public sector taking the lead, especially when we claim that we are marching towards a resilient green economy, nature island of the world. So we should be leaders by now in that resource in terms of solar. We look at the alternative of wind energy. And if you go on the East Coast, for example, you will see, like my niece and nephew normally tell me, Uncle Don, the trees went to the barber. You could see their shape, their haircut, their Afro-style shape as a result of wind action. So we have an enormous resource of wind energy on the East Coast that we can harness as an alternative source to fossil fuels and stuff like that. And now, over the years, have we taken advantage of that? And that's a question we have to honestly answer. And if we haven't taken advantage of that, why? For example, on the West Coast, we have the lands available, the real estate available, where you see the grasslands and Taro cliffs, going down to Corley Hill, Salisbury, even Point Round. They are relatively accessible lands there. We could have installed solar farms, for example. On the East Coast, we can do wind farms, and the technology for wind farms has improved. Whereas, for example, at the Rosalie Resort, you see this tall windmill, or if you want to call it, for want of a better term, standing up in the middle of the property. The technology has improved now that you don't need those massive types of eyesores, so to speak. And there's modern technology that can use more environmentally friendly systems and equipment that can harness wind energy. So why didn't we look at, for example, wind energy for the East Coast, Marigot, La Plaine, and segment the country and see how best we can take advantage of the resources we have access to, and as our comparative advantage right there. The fossil fuels, the nuclear, the hydrocarbons, the gas liquids, the natural gas, coal. We don't have access to that. And those who have that as their primary resource is in control of the economies of most small island states, because we have to depend now on the expense of getting those fuels to provide us with energy in our parts. So we have to look at those areas and see how best we can harness. For example, we have in terms of of renewable energy. We have, as I said, sun, we have hydro, we also have geothermal, we have biomass, you know, from plants and other organic matter. So from your landfills, you can probably harness, and it don't have to be massive installations. You could do communal type energy producing units, just like you have in the environmental and liquid waste management. For example, in Martinique, instead of everybody having a septic tank and land use and land spaces limited, you have a communal septic plant, like was in our time, Alvin, like was done in Bafest, for example. So you have a community linked to a septic system, instead of every house having a septic a field in their yard, which they don't have the yard space for. So you do a communal septic system, sockaway system. Similarly, we could probably look at the feasibility or if it makes economical sense to have communal solar farms to feed pockets of areas along where we have more sunlight, pockets of wind energy farms that we can. So that would have reduced our cost, in my humble opinion, and we would not be subjected to fluctuations in the market for fossil fuel. The war in Ukraine, boom, the fuel price gone up. You know, some person in the Middle East decide to cut back on their production of oil, bam, the fuel price goes up. God doesn't prevent the sun from shining, he makes it shine every day. So my point is, we have to look at what is available to us and how we can harness that energy. And if we had done that in a phased way, looking at our generating units and phasing our natural resource to complement that, I don't think would be in that crisis now. Also, it would provide a lot of training and jobs for young people. It would attract, for example, I know of guys out there in the diaspora who are experts in the field of solar energy and wind energy. And we could have attracted that kind of partnership with the diaspora and training our young people to set up and maintain solar farms. Most of the countries in the Caribbean, islands in the Caribbean, it's a policy of theirs to have solar farms. You go to St. Kitts, you see that. You go to Trinidad and Tobago, you know, you see that. You go to Antigua, you go to, and the bigger countries, with Japan having access to nuclear, they have access to hydro, they have access to wind, they're still doing solar farms. So when I arrived in Japan, for example, at the airport, and I was going towards my conference hotel, and there's a whole stretch of solar panels. And I asked the guy, whoa, what's happening here? And he says, they use those solar panels or that source of energy to run non-essentials. Your essential stuff, you want to have a more reliable source of energy, so you don't get failures that can cause problems. But they are complementing what they have, solar, and we can do that with a population of 70,000 people. We can do that, I think, with not relative ease, but with the right investment and the right policy direction. And Domlec could be a partner in that, you know. Domlec has been waiting for solar, for geothermal for what, 15, 17 years, over $100 million spent US. That, to my mind, could retrofit every building in Dominica with solar.
True.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. Don, thank you very much for laying those cards on the table, as it were. Whilst you were talking, Don, I took note of your point that you said about how the people living overseas, I don't like to call them diaspora, Dominicans living overseas can help or contribute to even the conversation we're having here. And I just got a note here, a write-up here from one of the persons listening live on the live feed as we speak. They're listening to the conversation and they send that to me in terms of their contribution to Dominica after wanting to support us after Hurricane Maria. And in March of 2022, just last year, then a 1 megawatt generator was donated to Dominica. Let me just read from the article here, and I'm quoting from GIS. It is headed here, 1 megawatt generator to support Dominica's renewable energy goals. And it starts by saying the government of Dominica is grateful to Mr. Robert Flexton, and Mr. Linton Scotland for a donation of a 1 megawatt generator unit. The generator was donated over the severe impacts of Hurricane Maria in 2017 to assist in the restoration of electricity. At a small ceremony on Wednesday, March 16, 2022, Minister of Public Works and the Digital Economy, Honorable Kasani Laville, expresses gratitude for the donation. He said here, in a time when we were struck by Hurricane Maria in 2017, a time when we know our generators, power supply, distribution line would have been significantly damaged. We suffered a lot during the time period, and these two gentlemen, through their kindness and philanthropic effort, were able to come to assist us and arrange for this donation to the government and people of Dominica. So we are certainly grateful for the kindness and the donation, Laville said. It continues by saying, Minister of Planning and Economic, Climate Resilience and Sustainable Development, that is Honorable Vince Henderson, believes that this is an opportunity to integrate the generator into the DOMLEC network. He says, in doing so, it takes Dominica one step closer to achieving climate resilience. And Vince added some other comments here, but let me just jot down to the final paragraph of that write-up. It says here, the unit is located near the Windsor Park Sports Stadium. Discussions have been held with the team of DOMLEC to establish a microgrid in that area to assist in powering up major government institutions in the area. DOMLEC will conduct a site visit later this month to evaluate and switch gears and assesses that has already established generators at that stadium. The generator contributes to Dominica's renewable energy and resiliency goals. So Don, right here is it in terms of proof. Dominicans are doing what they can in terms of helping us. And we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing in Dominica with that help? I mean, that is the first time, Don, I'm even hearing about that, I can tell you straight up. And we are now in a crisis. We are now in that capacity management where DOMLEC is concerned. And so even in 2023, Don, in the year of modern technology, as it were, DOMLEC, our sole electricity supplier, is still relying on the good old diesel generators, hydro to a small extent to keep us lit in Dominica. Your perspective, Don?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we lost the opportunity or we are so behind that we mightn't be able to play catch up. But following the Prime Minister's address to the United Nations, which I myself was impressed with, the world was looking at us for an example with enthusiasm, because the word spelled out at the UN was that we are going to be the first resilient country. And therefore, one would have expected that we would do all in our power to meet the goals of sustainable supply of renewable energies as a priority, you know. So to have heard the CEO of DOMLEC say that most of their generators are tired, they are almost obsolete, they are almost well, they're running too hard, let's say, for a better word, they're running over time, because the capacity, the demand for energy way passes their capability of supplying as we speak. So that's a serious situation. Now that sends out mixed signals or wrong signals to the outside world. Do they want to come in here and invest? Or even the existing industries or the existing outfits here, they may be calculating, do we stay there? Do we move? What do we do? Some may be of the ability or the capacity or the means to retrofit for solar independent of Dominic. I know some private houses, some private owners of domestic houses are already doing that. Some businesses, as I said, are already retrofitting with solar panels on their roofs. But the average Dominican, the man who has not recovered from Erica or who has not recovered from Maria, how do we capture them? What safety net do we put in place to insulate them from that crisis, if you say it's a crisis? So I don't know if we have missed the boat or we're too far behind that we have to be playing catch up, because Dominic said openly and candidly that they anticipate that this situation is going to continue into December, tentatively. There is no guarantee it won't go beyond December, right? And now, yeah, we have to do something in either the immediate or in the short term to alleviate that situation, because it has an impact not only on just, and some people of the opinion is just, for example, I had some conversation with some, I wouldn't say defenders, but sympathizers, and they say, oh, that's a big force. This happens all over the world. This is a phenomena that happens occasionally in other countries. And my answer to that was, well, that shouldn't be our best practice. That shouldn't be our benchmark. Our benchmark is that it should not happen. Let us look at the countries where it does not happen rather than looking at the countries where it happens. I mean, we're fully sure we want to predicate our development on things that are negatively happening in other islands, and say because it's happening there, it can happen here, and it's okay. No, so we have to do better than that, and we can do better than that, and we should do better than that, and we have to do better than that. And it goes back down now to planning, not only from the Dominic perspective, but from the policymakers, the government perspective. I mean, government just bought over Dominic. So one would have expected that the government would have done an audit on the equipment that may have been going obsolete or is not in part of meeting our demand, and inject the necessary financing and capital to arrest that situation before it reached that level. Because according to the CEO of Dominic, they saw it coming, because they saw the trend from 2019 to 2020, the increase in demand, from 2020 to 21, further increase, and from 2021 to 2022. Now the government is building new apartments, new hotels, new airport. So we could not possibly be sitting back depending on those old tired equipment to generate enough power to feed those new developments. And I hope, and without information, you make assumptions. I hope government and Dominic were not assuming that, well, you know what, geothermal coming on stream in the next 3-6 months, a year. So let us stretch it out. Let us see how far we can operate without making another big investment in generators. And hopefully when geothermal comes on stream, we'll just switch. But that is not a good strategy, and it's proven not
well
to be.
Done. Well done. Just to add here, right, on that last point you made here. Listening to the GM of Dominic, that is Mrs. McKenzie, when she had this press conference on Wednesday to update the nation, really blackout. Based on what she said, I am leaning to say that, or to suggest that that is exactly the thinking of the government. because she mentioned about the geothermal energy, that 10 megawatts that Domlec in 2025 or thereabout is relying on. And I know she got that from somewhere. And so most likely I am deducing based on the statement, it is because of what she was told by the government authorities. Then that is why Domlec as a company now is leaning towards that. I'm just suggesting that based on her comments. So you may not be too far off.
Yeah, well, it's not a sin to make assumptions and to have your own interpretations of what you hear in public, you know. It's not a, I mean, if it's wrong, then your PR must come and correct it and say, well, here are the facts, here are the, you know, and so let us move from there. But to be in that position right now, where we have a capacity problem, we have a problem of meeting demand is quite serious, and the impact, as I said, is just not, well, you don't have lights today, you don't have lights today. It impacts, as the CEO rightly said, it impacts a cross section of the economy, of the population. It's not just a matter of, oh, so a guy tell me, boy, I can't watch TV. I said, that's it. But what about the lady on the side of the road who depends on a little ice pop to make a living, a livelihood, and she has to have energy to freeze that stuff, and she goes out every day with a little bucket. She can't do that. It's impacting from the smallest man to the biggest corporation. And we have to look at it like this, you know. School children, for example, I went from Mahu to Point Michel. I went on a couple errands, visited a couple of people. And the kids are literally crying. They can't do their homework online. Because in the middle of a session, boom, the current goes. Now those people they don't have secondary power, they don't have backup power. What are you going to tell them? Oh, don't let it like it's happening all about, so don't worry, you know? What about the vendors who depend on the little sales of the top up, the digital top up, the flow top up, the even Domlec top up, you know, the lotto, they work on commission. What are you going to tell those people? Domlec just stick, right? So it affects livelihoods, and we have to look at it that way. The urgency of the matter, we have to look at it this way and see how we can arrest that situation. Because when you affect livelihoods, then people get frustrated, people get, you know, anything can happen. It also impacts on your national security. Because here it is, you have published blackouts in areas. The criminals are smart. They may take advantage. You know, Central Rome are going to be blacked out from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock. Let's see which house we can ransom. It impacts on your national security. You now have to have more surveillance being done by the police, more patrols. You know, it's just not a simple thing. There's a lot of added negativities that come with that, you know, and that is where now we will decide at the end of the day if it's a crisis or if it's bending towards a national emergency, you know.
Don, just before Alvin comes in there, and before we take that all important break, which is just in a while, I compare the situation that we are facing now, really shortage of electricity by Domlec, to being like the blood that is circulating in our body. If we don't have that blood, Alvin, running through our veins, then eventually, my brother, we will collapse. Don mentioned a few areas of the economy that is being affected, but Don, that situation is affecting all areas of our economy. We cannot list them tonight. We're talking about people are placed in a very uncomfortable position, be it economic-wise, psychological-wise as well. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and I told her, you know something? We are only looking at the tangibles here, but what about things that we cannot even see? Don, I will not be surprised because of that added pressure of that load shedding situation. Some persons who cannot take it, who mind is not stable enough, may decide to call it quit. So, so that in and out of itself, it has a sort of recurring decimal effect on the whole population. And the sooner we get our act together in terms of getting our lives back on track in Dominica, then it can just do us well in Dominica.
You know, I just quickly listed some the manufacturing sector has been affected. Those without backup power.
Mm-hmm.
The transportation sector, you have the agricultural sector, as you said, you know, the small retail shops, you know, they're being affected. The hairdressers, the barber saloons. You're in the middle of cutting my afro. Look at my hair, the guy.
So you had no choice. You had no choice to go like me then.
But in the middle of cutting your hair, can you imagine lights going off? You know, and you have a patch. You have a, no, it's serious. It's serious. You know, you talk about the vending machines. We talked about that already. We talk about, let's say, the laundromats. You know, you in the middle of a cycle, the current goes. You know, your clothes is there now, soaked with either what do you call it?
Detergent or whatever it is.
Or a little bleach. You decolorize your clothes. You spoil your clothes. It's a whole melange. It's just not Dominic taking lights. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And as I said, the vendors, man, I feel for them. And even, for example, I have a friend here, well, two friends here. They have left the United States out because they got the permission from their principals that they can work out of Dominica. So they're here doing work online. For the past 2-3 weeks, they cannot, in the middle of doing a assignment, boom, current goes. They have to restart. And she told me, you know what, I'm keeping telling my principals, we have a problem in Dominica and stuff like that. And the guy says, no, I'm interested in your output, your output, your targets. If you can't meet your targets, you have to make a decision whether you stay in Dominica or you come back to head office to work. So it's not a simple, it affects everybody. So now she has to make the decision. Well, luckily, we had a friend who had a small portable generator. So we're going to hook it up so that she'll be able to work online with a more sustainable power supply. And she may not have to go back to camp. And there's another one who may have to go back to the States because of that problem. You cannot going to be, the employer is not going to accept that your country doesn't have a reliable power source, and therefore you're looking for that as an excuse to not performing. And you know, in North America, Alvin, that is not an excuse. You either produce or you
absolutely
make way for others. You know, so it's
absolutely
impacting a lot of people. It's not a simple thing, you know.
Yeah, Alvin, any further thoughts from me before we take that all important break?
Yeah, well, I mean, Don has really covered a landscape there. You know, I thought he was going to do 1 or 2 acres, but it looked like he covered 100 acres. And I'm trying to figure out where on the 100 acres I need to start. But so seriously, I think Don has mentioned quite a number of areas there. And I think in all what he has said, it boils down to 3 things: leadership, vision, governance. And that's where we are as a country. And at the end of the day, and he made reference to North America and the way things operate out here. If you have a company with a CEO or a board that is not delivering, then they get rid of the board, they get rid of the CEO. Simple. Simple. You know, I mean, you have a team that goes through a couple NBA team or a football team and they keep losing, then, you know, we replace the coach. So, I mean, clearly Dominica is at the junction now. And remember, when in my earlier comments, while we are looking at the much broader picture as it relates to energy, and Don is right, and the analogy that you use, Lofty, of the blood flowing through the human being is so correct. But as I said, we have a health crisis now. We have a crisis with our health system. We heard what's going on with the doctors, the nurses at the hospitals. We have a crisis. Our economy is not moving as it should. Now our energy now, with the little of what we have, assuming the little of what we have, we already have a health crisis. But imagine now the private doctors who may have their operations to assist now do not have energy to do what they have to do because the domlet is going on them. So that further compounds the labs where the citizens have to go and do their lab test. Now you can't do the lab tests. The labs now have to reschedule and say, well, we don't have power today, so you got to come back 2 days now or whatever that is. So it is clearly an issue of leadership, vision, and governance. And I think I make no bones about it. I'll be very candid. I think we're at the point now where something has to be done. Some action has been taken to say to this government or to get a replacement to this government. Bottom line. I mean, because even, I mean, how long now since government acquired Domlec? 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years?
2 years or
3 years? Now, during that 3-year period, you're telling me, like Don mentioned, no audit was done. I mean, I heard the CEO of the company saying that they have a generator that is 37 years old. That should have been commissioned after 15 or thereabout years, 37 years. And what I find was a little, you know, I mean, I understand she is trying to explain and trying to be as transparent as she can. But when she used the analogy of a car and say, well, you know, like you have a car and the car is taking you to the end here and you don't need to change the car, the old buggy. So it's like the generator is the old buggy. So the buggy is working, so don't worry the buggy. I mean, clearly you can't run a business, an organization like that. I mean, because
sending car from England, you know, that's a joke. So let's wait it out.
You know, because I mean, equipment has depreciation. They depreciate after a period of time. And if you're telling me the generator is 37 years, how many times have it been depreciated on the books? And you still have it there and you don't recognize that. I mean, I shared something on the live comparing where St. Lucia is to where we are over a 7-year period. I mean, that's where St. Lucia is in terms of what their you know, their demand and their supply. And look at where we are. So I think we definitely we're at this juncture now where the citizens of Dominica have to do what is necessary. And I think the government themselves must recognize, look, man, we have outlived our usefulness. There's nothing more we can do. And therefore, allow a fresh air. Incidentally, and based on what Don says, that Dominic said that might go on for the rest of the year, December, even into next year. Last year, you remember last year, we had a crisis in December. Yeah, and we likely have an energy power crisis in December again. So that's not good for the economy.
All right, guys, thank you very much. We have a call coming in here. Let's take that call before we take that all-important break. Caller, good evening to you. You're on to the Civic Vibes program. Good evening.
Yes, good evening, Lofty. How are you doing?
Very well. Good evening, sir.
Okay. So, Lofty, this is Linton, Scotland. So I called because, first of all,
hi, Mr. Scotland. How are you?
I'm doing well, well.
Good.
My thoughts are really with the folks in Dominica in the situation that we are in right now relative to electricity, energy, and it's a very difficult situation to be in. It's not like years ago when, you know, we didn't have all the systems that depended on electricity as we do today. So everything, the internet and everything, so you almost can't do work as effectively as you would like to without that. So my thoughts are with the folks in Dominica who are going through that. But I wanted to share a couple of things because, and so first of all, some people might know me, but I'll say what my current role is. So I am the vice president of supply chain for Con Edison in New York. Con Edison is one of the largest utilities in the country, one of the most reliable utilities in the country. And so we provide electricity, gas, and steam to over 10 million plus people. So I think you read this the article on GIS relative to the generator that I provided to Dominica a few years ago. And I will say again, so my background is engineering. I have been in the space of energy for a while on the generation side. So I used to work for NRG, which produced about 24,000 megawatts of electricity. So when we think of electricity in Dominica, our total capacity is about 16 megawatts, right? So that's basically a small power plant, right? But one of the things that's important is the diversification of our generation. And now you have multiple sources of generation, whether it's wind, solar, gas, or diesel, or what have you, hydro, and even geothermal. So with 16 megawatts of electricity, diversification is important. What we did years ago in providing that unit to Dominica was to supplement in areas where if you had something like that, you could still run your hospital, you could still run your essential services, right? And so that unit was a donation from Dynergy, in a company in Houston. The CEO and I worked together for years. And so we were able to provide that unit to Dominica. And as you saw in the article, we got it from California to St. Louis, reconfigured it to Dominica standards, and then shipped it down to Dominica. Now, that's like a microgrid. So it's actually the size of a semi-trailer, right? So it's huge. And it's about 1 megawatt. I think the Dominica is now integrating it into the system now. But it is one of the units, and I think they need more of that. So we talk about generation. Most of the generation we have in Dominica has diesel units, and they have been around for a while, right? Many companies now have moved on from diesel units. They are not even gas units, but they're now truly just from wind, solar, nuclear. These are the sources that folks are looking at now. You still have gas. And these are large natural gases. So I said a lot. I just paused there to see if you have any questions.
Yeah, Alvin, any questions for brother Scotland on the line still? Don, any questions so far? I have one situation to pose to you, but let me ask them first.
No, I'm going with what he said. I mean, first of all, I want to thank him for the initiative, and we wish more of him could come forward to help us because it's a national issue. Huh? It's not a government issue. All of us are being affected. And but my question is, that 1 megawatt generator, how long has it been sitting wherever? How long has it been? When was it procured? When was it delivered? Was it in use?
You heard the question, Linton?
No, I couldn't. I didn't hear it.
Okay, basically he's asking, Don is asking the generator that you guys sent to Dominica in terms of your donation, when did it get to Dominica?
So that unit, right after Hurricane Maria, it was October sometime in 2017. We worked on, getting that unit to Dominica. So it was in Dominica since that time, maybe 2017, latter part of 2017.
Okay, all right, cool. Mr. Scott,
Lofty, if you ask him, it's been there 17, so was it ever commissioned, or is it only now being commissioned? I'm not quite sure if I get that. Could you ask him if he's not hearing me?
Did you hear the question, Linton?
No, I can't hear any questions, Lofty.
Okay, sorry.
So you'd have to ask him.
No problem.
Okay, sorry about that. Brother Alvin is asking, do you know when the generator was commissioned?
So, again, I am not sure when it was. I think from what I was told, it was located at the Windsor Park, and that's where the photo that you may have seen was taken, because it was set up for that purpose when Mr. Bob Flexon and myself came down to Dominica. And again, the folks in the photo did a really good job in accommodating us. But again, we have the engineers from Dynergy ready to support in any way all the materials that were needed in terms of the plan, the schematics, the drawings and everything were provided. So as to when it's commissioned, that's outside of my preview.
Okay.
Yeah. Just a final thought here in terms of a suggestion to you, Mr. Scotland. Seeing that we are in this predicament now, the load shedding and, as they say, management capacity. If, for example, Domlec could reach out to you or your company or the Mr. Flexon brother, would you guys, welcome that opportunity, at least to have a discussion to see if, something can work out in terms of benefiting the Dominican people?
Well, I'll say yes. I mean, we have done that. So I am in touch with some of the folks at Domlec. They've reached out to me. And so the key thing there is really trying to get some additional capacity, right? And one of the things we do, and again, right now, whether we're in the hurricane season or in storms, again, in New York, what have you, we saw the hurricane that just came through, we have emergency backup systems, right? So in some cases, we have generation capacity like this, 2 megawatts, 3 megawatts, for certain locations that we can turn on and have ready in case those things are. So I think one of the key things is to have those portable units, per se, that, again, it doesn't solve your clean energy situation, but it really helps you in times when you have those types of crises, that you can have that extra capacity. And those units can be leased and can be rented, to meet those kind of needs.
Okay. All right. Well, Brother Scotland, if you don't have any more thing to say to us, I want to thank you very much for your intervention here. And again, on behalf of Dominicans, thank you guys for your benevolent contribution to Dominica.
No, well, thank you very much. And again, we all Dominicans, we're all going through this together, whether we are in the diaspora, whether we're home, we feel the pain, right? And maybe not as directly as those in Dominica. So I empathize with you folks going through that. But there are opportunities for us to kind of work together to kind of get this thing right? And I'll tell you, just not me, there are many folks. I'll tell you what, I'll say this briefly. In Con Edison, in New York, we have so many folks of Dominican descent that are in that space, right? That have insights and knowledge. It's not just Linton Scotland. There are lots of other folks that have insights and doing it at a large scale, right? So again, I give you a sense of how scale is and the opportunity.
Yeah,
so,
I think Alvin has one more point. Alvin, yes, before you go.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad.
Rusty, you might have to let me know what the point is.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Yes, go ahead, Alvin.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad that the brother made that last comment, because we heard from the CEO of Domlec that they engage in the consultancy of a solution. Now, I mean, I don't have any problem with folks from the Caribbean. We're all Caribbean people, and they may have certain expertise that we can depend on. But here we have a brother there who was part of providing assistance to us in the past, who is working with an electrical company, who has the expertise. And he just said there are several Dominicans in the company who have that expertise. And I'm sure the same can be said outside, in other areas outside of New York. Maybe California, we had the brother there, Lennon Matthew, who called several times in Texas. And we have even right on our soil, we have Adler Hamlet, who was involved in Domlec and St. Lucia. But again, look at the way in which this administration runs things. Everything has to go to a quote-unquote non-Dominican. And we have Dominicans overseas and Dominicans in Dominica that can help and lend a hand. And that's what I'm saying, Lofty. I mean, I'm going to be very candid. This is clearly a question of governance, leadership, and vision. And that is what it boils down to, because they knew very well that this brother had assisted in the past and could have reached out to him. And like he said, he's been in conversation with him. And he could provide those consultancy for us for free. Because I'm sure we have to pay the St. Lucian consultant, like we had to pay, what's this guy name who did the electoral reform, Sir Byron. We paid him almost $750,000. So we may have to take money from Domlec to pay that St. Lucian consultant. It's not going to be for free, I'm sure, unless they can prove otherwise. So I just wanted to make that point, Lofty. You may have to press it to him.
No, he fell off the grid. He fell off the grid. So, but I know he's listening,
okay,
and
sorry.
so he maybe got your comment. All right. But thank you very much, Alvin, for your point here.
Are you going to take
Folks,
a break?
yes, we have to take a break now. It's already 25 to 7, and so we have to do just that at this time. Folks, remember, we're having a conversation with Brother Don Corrid here as our special invited guest on a matter of our energy sector in Dominica. And so your time is coming up when those lines will be open up to you. The numbers to call are 245-2396 or 615-9470. Let's take that break. We'll be back in just a bit.
Water break.
There's a great silent opera, a whole lot of murmur, constantly falling on deaf ear in Dominica. Utility companies, they're heartless policies, they're causing distress and despair. It's your murder. Domlec, the people have a complaint. Electricity prices overpaying. For all the other money that we paying, every day is the same. Lights gone again, people appliances gone come again, and it's plain to see that your policy is once you making your money to hell with everybody. But I hear a sound.
We want to say a special thank you to the man Denison Dice Joseph for this one entitled Lights.
Not so far away.
And Brother Pat Aaron, wherever you are, my brother, good evening to you as well.
For people who die and suffer, who take and cannot take no more. The poor service you providing causing big problems, and nobody is seeking for justice for them. They pay their dues, they have their rights. They tell me to tell you, let there be lights.
Indeed, let there be lights. Dominicans have been in the dark somehow, huh? Of late from Domlec. Folks, remember the numbers to call after the break. It is 245-2396 or 615-9470. These numbers are on your screen, scrolling across.
It's a matter of principle, the rights of my people. If your system is causing trouble, you're responsible. Your price is excessive for the service we receive. All this frequent power outage causing damage. When people cannot pay, you disconnect them. But when you're wrong, you ignore their problem. Because they have no recourse, you take advantage. Tariff and excise tax, and you will cost. Value added tax, you pass down to us. People people tired ball. Take it once and for all, cause you're driving Dominican's back against the wall. But I hear a sound of a distant drum, not far away, not so far away. And the big is for people who tired suffer, who take and cannot take no more. The poor service you're providing causing big problems, and nobody is seeking for justice for them. They pay their dues, they have their rights. They tell me to tell you, let there be lights.
Let there be lights, Dominic. Let there be lights for the people of Dominica. On that note, I want to say thank you very much to the hard-working folks of Dominica as well, What they say, the power to serve us better. We need to get back to glory days, Dominic, all right, in the interest of your customers. All right, folks, in the interest of time as well, quarter to the hour of 8 o'clock already. We started at 6:25, so we'll be ending at 8:25 thereabout. Let's go back to our live panel here. All right, indeed. Gentlemen, we are back. You heard from Brother Scotland in terms of his intervention a while ago. Your thoughts or any other thoughts that you may have to push right about now? Don.
Lofty, Alvin made a statement about Dominic management earlier. And I may want to come to the defense of my good friend. Mackenzie, I know Mackenzie relatively well. I worked with her during post Erica, and she also led the company to programs in the OECS. And at one time, Dominic was voted the most efficient company. I don't know if you're a utility company in the OECS.
Yes, I remember.
Kudos to her. I mean, there are some things that she's not saying, because if I know her well, she would want to take the company to a place of profitability and efficiency, if I know her very well. So I am not discarding her attempts maybe to have invested in other forms of energy generating. And she may not want to say that, and probably the policymakers, and that's assumptions, and as I say, assumptions are not sins. But I know any person that I worked with in terms of networking, collaboration, I want to think so. The second thing I want to say to Alvin is Moses Kundu. I don't know if you know that name, Alvin. He wrote a book, and let me tell you what it says. He wrote a book. He's a professor from Africa, and he does postgraduate lectures and stuff like that. In fact, he was one of my.
I'm familiar with that offer.
Yeah, and he says the takeover of statutory bodies up by government spells trouble. Now, prior to the takeover, we didn't have those issues, did we?
Right.
Yeah. So, and Moses Kukundu in his book, Managing Organization in Developing Countries, an operational and strategic approach, says, and I quote, government intervention in the management of state-owned entities can and often turn dysfunctional for several reasons. And it goes down listing the reasons. And one reason that struck me is that their takeover is inconsistent. They don't have a plan. They just take over for taking over sake, right? Without a strategic plan. Sometimes it's irregular and is designed to deliver immediate crisis or immediate high. So we take over Domlec, so the population gets the impression that government owns Domlec now, so electricity bills will go down, that kind of a hype, you know? He goes on to say that government officials often lack intimate insight into the industry and knowledge. They lack insight and knowledge. Yeah. And he goes to say, and technical expertise to make informed judgments and decisions. That's what my words say. That's it.
I know.
That's my professor words.
Right.
me when those things were happening for me to go and reflect on my notes, right? And he continues to say they often use extra organizational considerations for making decisions, thus exposing the entity, Domlec, to unnecessary environmental disturbances. Simply makes matters, and it simply makes matters worse.
Yeah.
And the other thing it goes on to say, he goes on to say that the state sometimes taking over of state-owned enterprises are provided with inadequate human capital, finance, and management resources. Yet the governments expect the operations to remain efficient and effective and become viable. And that is that is proven across the world in business.
No, I mean,
government interference in anything statutory spells trouble, because now the institute, for example, board of directors that may not have the competence, the know-how, the vision to take the company from where it is, where they want it to be. So their role is to appease the policy, the government ministers or whatever, the cabinet, on where they want to go, rather than where the manager and her team wants the company to go on a profitable alignment. So that's the conflict that happens. So good friend, to her defense, my good friend, I know her to be between deep blue sea and hard rock. That's my,
Don, I mean, if I may just briefly respond, I'll make a comment. And I appreciate your observation and your comment. And my comment wasn't in any way to disparage the office or the CEO. I am commenting based on what I heard of the interview.
I agree with you.
And I mean, when she made the reference of the generator being that old and comparing it when Madagascar to an old vehicle, that is where my comments went. But certainly, I know a little of her, and I know she's a very smart, bright person. But then that is another problem we have permeating in Dominica, Don, where you have, not just in the private sector or the quasi statutory board, but in the government service, you have permanent secretary who abdicate their responsibilities. And I think that is where we are at this point, because everyone now is looking at their job, protecting their job. And I can understand, I guess, it's not in the United States of America where you leave one job and you jump into another one. So everybody is very protective. So even as a permanent secretary, where a minister is coming to say to you to do something that is wrong by law, by constitution, you don't have the gall, whether you're man or woman, to stand up and say, Mr. Minister, it is wrong. And if you need me to carry out, the Finance Act provides that if a minister instructs a permanent secretary to do something that is contrary to the law, he or she has to bring it to the attention of the minister and say, Mr. Minister, this is against the legislation. If the minister insists, the permanent secretary is to carry it out, but the permanent secretary has to document. They has to document and forward that letter to the financial secretary, which is the chief accounting officer for all permanent secretaries, and say that according to so, I advise the minister otherwise, however the minister insisted. Because under the legislation, the permanent secretary is legally responsible. The permanent secretary can be legally charged for any expenditure that they incur that is outside the legislation, personally charged. So that is why. So all I'm saying is that we are at the juncture whereby, whether I see you in public corporations, so you go to National Bank, for example, and the government might say, well, we want an overdraft of $2 million. And you know damn well they cannot give the overdraft for $2 million. But because they run things, the manager wouldn't say, well, hey, I'm not going to get to you. I'll resign on a matter of principle. But then you have on the board, the lackeys on the board who will approve the 2 million. Like I heard Lofty yesterday.
We have someone on the line, Alvin, wants to make a contribution. So,
Okay.
so let's take that caller, please.
Sure, let's take the calls.
Yes, caller, good evening to you. Go right on. Civic Vibes.
Yeah, good evening, Lofty, and good evening to all the listeners of Civic Vibes. Brother Don and Alvin, greetings. Good program, Lofty. But, Lofty, what I want to do is answer the question you posed at the beginning of the program. Are we in a crisis or a emergency or something? But Dominica is in a serious crisis, Lofty. And Alvin had alluded to that early, that our economy is already weak. And you make reference to the body and the blood. A little bit of blood that left in the economy, the energy crisis is going to crash it, Lofty. But as Alvin also said, you need people with vision. For example, we bring Dominica as a nature island, or we want to be the first resilient country in the world. Here it is when the anniversary of a hurricane. And what have we done, Lofty, in terms of trying to be the first resilient, trying to get away from fossil fuel and have more renewable form of energy, like solar, hydro, and so on, wind and so on. But since after the hurricane, Lofty, our forest has been devastated. The Chinese and Dawakan them killing the rivers. How many trees have we planted? Because hydro could be a good source of renewable energy. Free, we have water flowing 24/7. And they say we have 365 rivers. So you see, you need people with vision to rebuild the forest, plant back the trees, to keep our rivers strong so we could build mini hydro systems, and not those big ones, but you could 2-3 megas, you know, like small hydro system in different parts of the country, added with solar and wind and whatever. But I just find we're in a serious crisis, Lofty. And as you said, that problem going to affect everybody. Agriculture, tourists, industry, everything and we haven't got much. But I don't say it's a serious crisis, and we have to get rid of this malgovernance, lack of vision, and incompetent people that run in Dominican affairs, Lofty. Thank you.
All right, my brother, thank you very, very much indeed for your very succinct points here. Yes, back to Alvin, back to Don. Thank you.
Alvin, you want to continue?
Yeah, no. All I'm saying, I mean, like I was about to say in concluding that, I mean, I listened to Lofty's program yesterday, and he mentioned the name of an individual who is on Domlec's board. I mean, you know, I know the individual very well. I mean, what does this individual brings to the board? He doesn't have any expertise in energy or anything to that effect. He has no expertise in human resources to say, well, okay, he can bring something to bear in terms of the staffing or hiring. He has no expertise in labor relation issues to say, well, that's where he come in. He's not a legal person, so he hasn't got no expertise in the legal field. I mean, he has nothing of those, but yet he's on the board. And, you know, and herein lies the problem as well. So, I mean, I empathize with somebody like Mrs. Mackenzie, what she's faced with, because at the end of the day, this individual on that board, along with the rest of the team, are her boss. They are her boss. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a crisis. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
But one final salient point that Kundo makes. He says, as an SOE, statutory entity, becomes commercially viable, financially independent, and technologically competent or competitive, its ability to fight off excessive government control significantly increases. So does the policymaker want that? Does the policymaker wants Dominic to be in such a position that they can prevent or back government interference, and hence the appointment of certain lackeys on the board, as you say, you know, so that they can push not the interests of the company, but the interests of the government. Now, the interests of the government might not be in line with the strategic plan of the company, and here lies the problem. You know, here lies the problem. And that's why she might be caught between, and you have the option to resign. You have the option to part ways, or you have the option to try to fight it out and convince your principals that is not the best way to go. Here is the other option. So, but we are in a crisis. I almost bordering.
You finally came to that conclusion.
Yeah.
All right. That's good. That's good that you have arrived at the conclusion sooner than I thought you would.
and on the guy's point, if you don't have another caller, Lofty, I agree with the guy. We could do, and also the gentleman who donated the 1 megawatt, and he spoke about micro sources of distribution, and that's probably the way we should have gone 10 years ago. But we seem to have thrown our energy behind geothermal to the point we started off, for example, saying that we had the resource in such vast quantity that we were going to supply Martinique and Guadeloupe. To 10, 15 years later, where we're now saying that even if we get geothermal, which is 7 megawatts a watt, we're still short of 10. So we still have to rely on fossil fuels for meeting our capacity.
Yeah, Don, we have a call on the line. Sorry to interject. Caller, good evening. Go right on.
Hey, Lofty, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
To you and your guests. Excellent program as per usual. Lofty, listening to the manager, CEO of Tomlek, I think she stated that at least 35% of the generation comes from the hydro, and because there is a drop of the water levels at the freshwater lake, there's an issue with that. So my question is, what would be the rainfall measurement as of the same time last year? The same time around the same time last year, and this time, what were the measurements like in terms of the calculations? So last year around that time we had this amount of rainfall. This year around this time we have this amount of rainfall, and see what it was like. Because the point I'm getting to at Lofty is I don't know if there's any correlation between the geothermal activity, drilling, etc., taking place in the valley, and the water levels at the freshwater lake. I don't know if a correlation could be made between that activity and the reason why there is so much of a drop in the water levels at the lake. I don't know if there's any expert out there who could answer that, if there's no correlation at all, or if the water level at the lake is simply low due to the extremely hot temperatures that we've been experiencing this year.
Yeah, well,
so that was just my point of the thanks for taking my call.
Okay, thank you very much, caller. Thank you indeed, and thanks for listening and also contributing to the program. Don, before you and Alvin come back in, let me just try, and as the operating would try to answer the caller in that we would now be looking at some experts for some advice or some solution as to what the point the caller is. What I can tell the caller is that I saw visibly, that is today, a journalist went up at the lake, and he put out a short video, Mr. Gavin Richards, I believe, better known as Rice Man, and basically showing the drop in terms of where the water level used to be before at the freshwater lake and where is at presently, as to what is really and truly the contributing factors why that lake has basically, just dried up, as it were. Then, that is where the expert comes in. And so, yes, caller, I will try my very best on behalf of Civic Vibes to, kind of get some more expert advice in that department as to whether, as you're saying, there's any correlation between what is happening at Loda presently and the source for the hydro. Yeah, so we'll try our very best.
Post Erica, for example, when I met with the World Bank, one of the proposals that we put forward was networking collaboration between Domlec, the WASCO, forestry, for a reforestation program for the catchment areas, so that we could either save or protect our water table. I'm not too sure how far that has gone. Secondly, in terms of dry season.
Don, that point is very critical. Can you just repeat that point again, please, before you go to the second point?
No, I'm saying that Maria, I met with a delegation from the World Bank.
Okay.
One of our recommendations was for the collaboration between DOASCO, Domlec, forestry to embark on a reforestation program. And the thing about it, there's money for that. There's outfits out there that if you write a proposal that you can get the greening of your economy, the reforestation. It's just a matter of sitting down and putting a project together. So that is one. The leakage of the lake as a result of the geothermal activities, that will be something to have the rightful experts look at. But what we can say definitely is activities around the lake that cause this deforestation, that cause more surface runoff away from the lake is a contributing factor. But more importantly, in terms of the Domlec and DOASCO situation, the CIMH, the Caribbean Institute of Meteorology and Hydrology, they put out a forecast. So for example, earlier this year, late last year, earlier this year, the predictions were already for a drier and hotter prolonged season 2023. So what I'm saying, if your management strategically thinking, you should capture that you're going to have less rainfall, you're going to have more heat waves. That means you're going to have more evaporation, your water table is going to drop. So DOASCO should be positioning itself, Domlec should be positioning itself to have contingencies to take care of that. So that's what I'm saying. So in management and in operating those critical sectors, we need to have a governance policy program that we need to network. We need to collaborate. We need to synergize our efforts to the benefit of our own company. So where we can join hands with DOASCO, forestry, and Domlec to do a project to enhance our catchment areas. We should do it. We should write projects. We should submit it for funding. As I said, there's a lot of climate-related funding that can look at those proposals. And I'm also saying, after the excellent speech given by the Prime Minister at the UN, countries were looking at us with enthusiasm, ready to come in to fund. But I think we dropped the ball because I don't know if it's just pretty words, because we never follow up with a country work program, a country plan to bring into fruition our strategy for a resilient, first resilient country. So Creed, for example, fall apart, in my opinion. We're not hearing about Creed again. Did they achieve their mandate? What is the important thing with projects and with organization? It's nice to have an organization. It's nice to call them names and appoint people. But at the end of the day, after your monitoring and evaluation is important, your results. But more importantly, your impact. What is the impact on the people? And if the people haven't been impacted, then you're a failure. You're a total failure. And that's where I say we're in crisis now. I can now come and say in crisis because you have failed on many fronts. And I talk about from a management perspective. I mean,
absolutely, Don.
Alvin, we have to get to the feed in a while.
Yes. No, Don is so right on point, because we have to look at those things within context. It's not just saying, well, the water levels drop, which is a fact, but let's look at it within the broader context. And Lofty, you on the island, Don is on the island. You guys have eyes. You can see the abuse that is being taken or being done to our environment. You see it. You drive around the country, you see how the rivers have been dredged in manners and ways that they should not. The deforestation, you see it. A couple months ago, you saw pictures were circulating on social media of what's taking place at Emerald Pool. I mean, what do you expect? I mean, yes, you do have the situation that Don mentioned, that we have a hotter season, but I think it boils back down again to leadership, vision, and governance. If you do not have the right leadership, there's no vision that says the people perish. And if the governance is not there, then we have a crisis. And that's where we are. The question remains now, how do we get out of the crisis? That is the important thing.
Yeah, so we'll be answering that before we leave here tonight. Let's go to the live feed, Alvin, to get some comments here. And Don, take note of the comments, questions, so just in case you want to input as well. Ezra Winston writes, Lake dry up, asking that question. This is just the beginning. We take everything for granted in this country. We destroy our forests, he adds, cut trees, destroyed Emerald Pool, and we expect every day to be Christmas. Wake up and smell the sulfurs, people. Ezra Winston, thank you very much for your comments here. Marlene Schilling for the rights. Caller, you're asking for figures. DLP government do not do any statistics. Chiquito Thomas writes, all these people just can't do the job in Dominica, which is sad in the country. Who else we have here, Alvin?
We have Peter George. Peter George is saying, Lofty, if my memory serves me right, the reforestation program that Don is talking about was instituted under the CREED program and was assigned to Joseph Isaac after he crossed the floor. As expected, a total failure.
Karen, well, yes, Alvin, I remember that point that person is writing about very, very vividly indeed. As to where CREED is at now, as Brother Corrett stated earlier, as that watchdog, as that, steering organization to lead us onto that path in terms of the action now, based on Skerritt's words at the UN, then, certainly Dominicans, have dropped the ball in that department.
We have go ahead.
Karen Joseph writes, the deforestation and other activities such as mining have a major impact on our rivers.
Absolutely. We have Emiliana Watson Dauphiné. I would like to know how much rain do we need to bring back the water level to where it is. I'm not sure if that's something Don might be able to speak to. I'm not sure.
The good Lord above will delete that one. But thank you very much, Dauphiné.
Then we have Marshall Lawrence, who said Domlec officials have to build a few water storage plants. So if and when the level drop, they will have a supply. So that kind of dovetail into the question that Dauphiné asked a few minutes ago.
Yes, Ashby Scotland writes, CREED is dead. That's a point from Ashby. Let me see if we can take a couple more comments here. October's very own writes, so much could be accomplished if the public was informed as to how they will be affected. But we are only called out for political issues. All these issues are grounds for mobilization. Everlasting Peter writes, true, they lack insight and expertise. Brian Joseph writes here, when you have idiots like Brother Joseph on Domlec board, what do you expect? Well, Brian, I wouldn't call him an idiot, but I can understand where you're coming from. All right, with your comment. Lyndon Jordan writes, Brother Alvin, this government has no vision, no plans, no leadership skills whatsoever. Thus, the reason everything they place their hands on fail. Carolyn Campbellin writes, all he's saying is true and totally predictable. Our comment here from Brother Bernard Aline. He writes, I sympathize with the CEO, as I am sure that she has to be very careful as to what she says, how she handles this in order to keep a job. But her utterances were like a PR consultant. Unfortunately, I think that her skills are being stifled, as all must be done in accordance with the government's wishes. She has to be wise in the decisions now that she's under the government control. Sadly, may God help her to navigate and survive. All right. These are just some of the comments, Brother Corey, that are there. I don't know if you zeroed in on anyone that you'd want to respond to.
Oh, in terms of the levels and water levels, we might have to engage against CIMH to do that. Dr. Farrell, I know him well, and his team, hydrologists and other technical people. But yes, activities along the river, downstream and alongside the river can drain your water source very rapidly if you're not doing it in a proper way. But that needs expertise that I don't have. I won't venture in that scheme of things. But here the guy was mentioning the micro, again, go back to the micro generating units, wind, solar, even hydro, mini hydros. You know, we have to critically look at that, because I still believe we can go solar and wind in a segmented way, targeting the West Coast and the East Coast respectively. Solar on the west, wind on the east. I think we have to and those activities and those investments will be less costly in my view, and less risky with less hazards. Yeah, hydro, you have to go into the rivers again, you have to excavate, you have to build dams, you have to run pipes, you have to do protection work, mitigation works. Hydro, geothermal, again, you have to dig, you have to run pipes, the risk factor is high. Contamination of your water, your groundwater is possible. You have to mitigate against those things. It's costly. Maintenance is going to be high. Your health of your population in the area is going to be exposed to certain risks we don't know about. Heavy metals in the air. You have to have scrubbers. I mean, but you have to have new for management, for former management of disaster. You have to have new protocols for disaster management with geothermal. You have evacuation routes, alarm system, response systems. So it's a whole. I mean, it's not just simple. You know, you have to, if you're strategically thinking, you have to look at all of those instances and institutions that have to put in place. How do you evacuate the people if you have a emergency in the valley as a result of geothermal, or even a collapse of the hydro dam? How with solar panels, you don't have that headache. You don't have that headache, and you can buy the college with a project. Youngsters doing solar farms and maintenance of solar farms and installation.
But Don, look at this. I mean, that point's been made as well. I mean,
Alvin, we have someone else on the line. Just give that caller that intervention.
Sure.
Caller, good evening to you. Go right on. Civic Vibes.
Everyone, listen to the program. Wonderful program. You know, full of really pertinent information that we all can use. Just wanted to ask a quick question, and actually that's something that Black Pepper has always talked about. Is it possible that we could use, or is it possible that there is a natural gas deposit in the stock farm area, from our old dump that we can utilize as fuel to fuel any type of new generators, a new generation of generators to provide power for us. And that's my question for this evening. Thank you very much again. I'm listening.
All right. Thank you very much for that all-important question. I don't know who wants to take that on.
That again a study has to be on it as to whether the resource, how much of the resource do you have, whether it can sustain a microsystem, whether and for how long. So sustainability and reliability will be a factor, because this landfill is not a big landfill compared to those in the States and Europe and stuff like that. Furthermore, our landfills were not properly
designed. So
we have organic matter mixed with non-organic matter. We have metal. It's a mess. So I'm not too sure how feasible that would be in terms of generating electricity or power on a sustained basis, because the landfill is very small, and the amount of gas being produced is not, to me, it will be limited. The potential there is limited. Again, if you're looking at a micro project, people in the stud farm area in the vicinity, you might want to write up a project that you can tap in it and cook their food with biogas or biomass. So that's again going back to the guy's point of like a micro little, and then it will add to your resilience now and your nature island concept, that you can have using your own resource to energize your country in little ways, in little pockets. And as I said, like the environmental, the sewer, wastewater project that I visited in Martin, for example, where you have communal kinds of septic systems and subway systems. You could probably have those little micro generating units for small pockets of communities.
Yeah,
that is something that needs to be studied. But in my opinion, the landfill, the former landfill, is not sufficiently large enough to give you a sustained supply of biogas that would generate sufficient energy to add to the grid, or to add to make a difference. Let's see, make a difference.
Yeah. No, I agree with Don's observation and comments on that. And but like everything else, I mean, it's something, an exercise can be undertaken to look into it and explore. But I want to segue a bit on the solar panel, because it as Don may have heard himself, or
and Alvin, we have like 5 more minutes to bring it to a wrap, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, in like 5 more minutes.
As Don would be aware, China is one of the leading countries as it relates to solar panel energy. Okay, China is ahead of the United States of America in that regard. And we have had a relationship with China for the last 15 or more years. And that's where I go back to the question of leadership and vision. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. What does it take to have solar panel on the hospital, the China Friendship Hospital, the government building, all government buildings, schools, health centers? I mean, you just name it. The Sixth Form College. There are so many government buildings. Take the government headquarters that utilize a lot of energy, because you have lights, you have machines working, computers, photocopiers, you name it. What does it take? Why, again, with some vision, can we say to the Chinese, okay, we have a situation with our energy. How about you put in solar panels on all of our buildings for us? And that way it could free up some of that power that Dominica have to give to the little lady on the street who is doing her ice pop, or the little guy on the side that has a little bar running. That is where you call vision. And that is the problem. Now, I know there is a company that is involved in solar panel in Dominica. I don't know if there are several others, but I know of one. And that, again, would help create jobs. Because if this company now expand and doing more solar panels and other come abroad, you have job creation. So you have job being created, and at the same time, you're providing the energy and you're putting the solar panels on, installing them on all government buildings.
Yep, I agree. And then you could have a policy where government can subsidize
Exactly.
incentives for that kind of initiative. For example, and I am glad you mentioned that. We had a project in La Plaine, for example, on the La Plaine Health Center, which was retrofitted, well, not retrofitted, but was built with solar energy as main source for electricity. I mean, that it was almost a standalone kind of independent of Dominica. I don't know how it is now, but in fact, the point you're making and the point I'm going to make is we have built health centers around the country. We have built apartments around the country. We have built government institutions around the country, and we have failed to replicate that technology, that best practice on any one of the buildings that we have built. So it exposes how serious we are about resilience. It exposes how serious we are about renewable energy. Here it is, you have a facility that was built in La Plaine, and it was retrofitted with solar panels. No, well, not retrofitted, but part of the development included solar panels for energy. And you as a government have not replicated that technology, that best practice in any of the health centers and the community centers that you are building.
Or the schools, or the hospital.
Or the hospital. No, you're trying to retrofit the hospital with solar panels. Afterthought. I mean, come on, let's get serious with those things. And now you talk about China being the leader in solar energy and solar technology. And that's true. So what is our strategic partnership with China Re-Energy? What is it? I mean,
Are we just getting concrete?
Somebody have to answer that question. Why don't we have a Chinese Dominica friendship solar farm on the West Coast?
Absolutely.
I mean, they have the technology, they have the expertise, tap into them. Why can't we, for example, we stood up on the Deepwater Harbor, for example, to showcase heavy equipment coming to build a $1.3 billion airport. Why can't we get the same Chinese or the Russians or friends to immediately donate 2 or 3 heavy-duty generators and bring them and have them installed in the next 30 days? It's an emergency, and that's what I'm saying. It's a national emergency, because it's not going to be a
national crisis, emergency and crisis.
Crisis. I mean, let's get Hayden, for example, who they claim, allege, have all our money. Let him buy some generators for us immediately, if not sooner, according to my father. My father said, I want this done immediately, if not sooner. I don't know which. but yeah, man, we need to do something.
All right, gentlemen, as we look at the finishing line, I want to thank you guys. Very, very encouraging, very, very interesting information here, especially coming from you, Don. Let me just read a message here from someone listening on YouTube. There are many persons listening on the YouTube platform as well, but this one says, I'm listening to Civic Vibes, informative and engaging as usual, absorbing contributions from all participants. 2 key things though, regarding the generator donated by Mr. Linton's agency. I understand that the generator Roosevelt Scarrett claims to have commissioned to Dominica was from the Windsor Park. That's the first point. The second point is the caller raises key questions from research with respect to rainfall measurements for the same period last year and the previous years. The devastation of our environment, that person writes here, in conclusion, by Roosevelt's regime, the Chinese and Gada Khan in particular, must be a significant factor here. That is a comment from someone listening on the YouTube platform. Folks, we have to bring it down in just a while. I know there's more. Yes.
That information can be obtained from the Met Office.
Okay.
There are rainfall measurements and forestry in
collaboration. Yeah.
So there are mini rainfall gauges placed around the island. So that shouldn't be a problem to get the data for rainfall. But
Okay.
just, yeah, I had some, a quick 5-pointer, if you allow me, recommendation.
Sure. Yeah.
We need to get an immediate emergency fact-finding mission to audit our equipment at Dominic and the remaining life of such equipment vis-a-vis how long it can still going forward. We need to get our strategic partners, well, we spoke about that, China, Russia, and others, including Haiti, to immediately come to our aid in providing us with generators replacements as soon as possible. And it has to be a gift, it has to be aid. We cannot put stress on Dominic anymore. We need to do a comprehensive strategic plan for harnessing renewable energy using solar, wind, and wave energy. And we need almost do a critical analysis of where we are in terms of geothermal, reference the ongoing and unending cost. We over 100 million US, and we cannot generate 1 megawatt yet. And if needs be, to cut our losses. I mean, we can cut our losses in that exploration and the option and shift gears to other areas of more reliable, easy accessibility to renewable energy that provides less risk and less costs. We should try to explore that immediately. I recommend a total reshuffle of the board of directors of DOMLEC, and to have in place more competent persons with the industry knowledge and the industry trends, so as to provide proper guidance and direction to this critical asset, this critical utility. As I said, energy is work, and if we don't have a reliable energy sector utility, how are you going to attract direct foreign investment? I mean, it's going out on the internet, it's going out in the news that Dominica's utility electricity grid is hopeless, is broken. And when people talk about dry season, water levels, and Antigua, St. Lucia, they have more demand than us, and they are not going through that crisis. St. Martin has more demand than us. They have yachting facilities, they have marinas, they have hotels, they have St. Lucia has resorts. You made the comparison, Alvin, of St. Lucia and Dominica. We had 17 megawatts demand. St. Lucia is at what? 80.
That's right.
I mean, almost 3 times, 4 times, and yet still we come on the radio and say we're doing better than all of them. The envious, the jealous of us. Let's get real. Let's get real. Let's bite the bullet and do what we have to do, because we cannot continue in that vein. The country is suffering, and the country is in crisis. And to me, it's a national emergency. That's my
All
final.
right, guys, thank you very, very much indeed. Don, I want to thank you on behalf of the Civic Vibes team, Don. When I approached you earlier this week, you just willingly give off your time this Sunday, and so we appreciate the conversation we had with you this evening, brother. I hope that sort of engagement will continue with yourself and the Civic Vibes team as we move forward and trying to get solutions for our country, Dominica. You
caught me, because other programs have asked me, like, and I need to apologize to them, like Emmanuel, CCM. Have tried to get me on board, and every time there's a conflict in my schedule. And Anthony Drago, I don't know if he's listening, he had approached
TDN radio.
Yeah, yes, and again I had conflicting, and my production, Lofty, as you know.
Well, Lofty, he couldn't say no when he know I'm on the program. You heard his comments. I mean, if he knows that I'm co-hosting the program, that would be very disrespectful of him to not show up.
Very insubordinate.
Exactly.
Yeah. Don, it would be remiss of me though, knowing that you have your own little, production doing. I mean to say, I don't know if you want to just, tell us a little bit of that, how that is going, because there are many persons out there that don't know you, Don. to be part and parcel or owner now of that, you know, that business? I will let you name that business.
Well, Carl's Pepper Sauce.
Yes.
I'm the producer. Thanks to my mom. My mom started off in the 60s, and she literally brought us up on the extra income from the pepper sauce. It fell apart at one time. It was revived, taken over by my sister, who got sick and subsequently migrated. And so I decided not to let it die. So I took it over in memory of my mom. So that's it. Carl's Pepper Sauce. If you see it on the shelf, you taste it and you like it, that's the guy behind it. That sounds like a jingle, right?
Yeah. But yeah, so those folks out there who may be, you know, having Carl's hot pepper sauce every time they, whatever it is, have their food, snack, whatever it is, here's the man behind the business. And so please, you know, support him as you guys continue to support Dominica. All right. So Don, I want to thank you very much, my brother, on behalf of the team. As I said, there are many, many folks listening here. Very, very interesting conversation they're saying. And I am assuming, Don, that they want you to come back based on their feedback so far. So I don't know if you want to, I don't know if you want to pledge to that.
Yeah, once I'm available, once I do have other pressing issues.
Because I know there are many more matters we could touch on tonight, for sure.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. So thank you very much, Don. Do enjoy what is left of the evening. All right, brother?
yeah, thank you very much.
All right, Don. Well, let me just say thanks as well. And it's nice seeing you again. As you say, we go back way back, and it's good to see you. I remember those very good, fun memory days that we worked together in the Ministry of Tourism, and the fun things we do, and the way how we manage and lead the folks that, you know, we were responsible to lead. And I'm hoping that one day that we can have that kind of management and administration in place again. So it's a pleasure to see you, and good luck and all the best, man.
Yeah, nowadays, I mean, the ministers used to hide behind the PSs and the technical people. No,
Oh yeah.
hide behind ministers.
Yeah, and we would give the advice, and they would listen to advice. I mean, I work with the Honorable Minister Norris Prevost as Minister of Tourism, right there with him, advise him on a number of matters in tourism, several years with him, and, you know, prepare cabinet papers and interface and discuss with other officials, and, you know, and they respect our opinion and our advice. But those days are gone. So hoping that, you know, it can come back again. And but I want to thank you, man, for still staying there and doing the work and being of service to humanity and serving your country.
JC's principle, man. You can't go wrong. JC's principle.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree. But like Lofty was saying, there are quite a few comments on the feed. We were not able to get to all of them. Several folks raised several comments, suggestions, and I think definitely, Dawn, you're going to have to come back. There's some areas we could expand on a little more if we look at maybe just solar energy or wind energy or whatever the case might be, and maybe put like a blueprint as in terms of what kind of blueprint move forward. But again, will they be able to implement or take that blueprint on board and run with it? That's a question we need to ask ourselves.
Okay, folks. Thank you.
All right, man.
A pleasure.
They have their rights.
All right, Dominica, that is it.
Let there be light.
Alvin, my brother, final comments as we're about to leave the people's space.
Well, I think it was another great program, having someone like Don with the knowledge, the expertise that he has and which he has shared with us, and our many folks who stayed with us all the way to the end. And that is part of, that's one of my concerns, and I'm sure the concerns of many of us, both in Dominica and out of Dominica. There are so many of us, so many Dominicans that are ready and willing to help and to move our country forward. If only the government would, that and get those folks. Looking at this gentleman calling all the way from New York, I guess listening to the program. And this guy's a vice president of Con Edison. That's a top energy company in the US. And he's calling and saying, hey, I'm ready to help. And there's several of us over in the diaspora in the overseas are willing, who are able. And if only the government would take that into account, I think Dominica could be a much better place to go. So, thank you for the opportunity again, Dr. And look forward to a great day.
All right, thank you, Alvin.
Don't let the people have a complaint. Electricity prices up again. For all the other money that we paying, every day it's the same. Lights gone again. People appliances gone come again. And it's plain to see that your policy is once you making your money to hell with everybody. But I hear a sound.
All right, Dominicans, listeners, those of you here in the region of Footerfield, that's it for us here. Thank you for your eyes and ears each and every time from 6 o'clock.
And the beat is for people who die and suffer.
So on behalf of the Civic Vibes team, that is where we got to pack our bag and make some tracks. We wish you guys a good week ahead, all right? Thank you very much, one and all. Bye-bye. We love you.
Their dues, they have their rights. They tell me to tell you, let there be